Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawes County Board of Commissioners work session. Today's Thursday, March 17th, 2022. We appreciate all of you that are with us in attendance as well as those are with us online. We'll get right into the new business. First up, we have the presentation of repurposing space in the Dawes County Library, Chestatee Regional Library System, Leslie Clark and Michael Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Appreciate you letting us come in and talk about the library. Okay. We want to talk about adapting give you a little bit of background. When we built the new Lumpkin County Library, the headquarters moved from Dawson County Library to Lumpkin County Library. So therefore we have office space available that we'd like to turn into public spaces in our library. The library needs pre-K space in the library for pre-K programs, support home and county schooling, proctor exams, provide one-on-one help with technology and resume building, community meeting space, a study room with some technology, dedicated teen space that is especially needed, and comfortable reading areas. This presentation is numbered 1 through 8, the different things we're going to talk about, and then the slides are numbered following. So we'll go back to it, or I won't go back and forth and make you dizzy, but we're going to talk about to create a new children's storytime room by repurposing a former administration office, cut down a block wall by 3/4 and create a teen space and then an adult reading area. We need to cut down the wall so you can see into the space because you need visibility. Create a new patron meeting space by repurposing a former administration office. Create a new branch manager office, which we create a conference / study room because there's access from the library into that office. Close in the workroom from the patron area. Cut out 6 feet of curb at the loading dock and install a ramp. Replace all carpeting and put in a fresh coat of paint in the patron areas of the library, or actually the entire library, and purchase some furniture and technology for some newly created spaces. This is the first one that you see here. This is where we want to repurpose a former administration office into a story time room. What you're looking at in the purple and pink for the picture on the left is the front view opening. There used to be a large like CRT TV there when the library was built back in 2001, and it is a case. Most of it can be removed rather easily. However, this is a load-bearing wall, and we're 6 inches short from a legal door. So this is where some of the construction would come in on this piece. The other picture on the right is an inside view of what we want to make the new storytime room, and you can see it looks almost like a puppet theater, but it's not. The second thing we want to do is create a teen space. Where you see the blue arrow, that is where we want to bring the block wall down so we can see into that space. We also like to purchase some teen-friendly furniture that would be inviting for them to be in there. We want to repurpose a former administration office into a meeting space. The arrow you see on the left picture, that is a wall that shares with the storage room. And then the arrow you see on the right picture is a cased opening that we'd like to enclose. The next picture shows the storage room that shares that wall that we saw in the picture previous. And we'd like to take down that wall and turn this into a public meeting space. Sometimes the meeting room is being used and the staff needs a space to have programs. And we do passive programming such as the cookbook club or the knitting group and different things, book clubs. And it's a smaller space that would allow us to do that. We also have a lot of homeschooling families in our county, and sometimes they need a space for testing, the state testing that they need to do. So that is what this is for. Now that storage room door, we would like to replace that door with either a quarter light or half light so we can see into the room from the administration hallway. We do still have 3 offices there in that library, from the cataloger, an admin space, and all the IT things are there. The other thing we'd like to do is repurpose a section of the workroom, and where you see the blue arrows is put up a wall and a 36-inch door and make that Stacy's office, the branch manager's office. And what is using in that space right now is children's crafts and storage, and where we prepare story times for our children's programs. And instead, we would move that to this room, which is right next to that children's story time room that we saw back on slide 1, or number 1. And then they would be right there. They would share that door. So it would be real easy to do the crafts and the things that follow after children's program. So that would all be right there together. What you're looking at here is the current branch manager's office. And that is a perfect door to see into the a workroom. And then we want to, and then in the picture on the right is the door that leads into the library itself. And so patrons could use that. We could make that into a study room, small conference room with some technology to be able to, for teens or anybody really, to do studying, tutoring, take a test, use the technology that we'd like to put in there to practice presentations or do those kinds of things in that space. We do want to change again the door that has the, what do you call that, a quarter light? Quarter light, and make it into a half light, because we need visibility into public spaces. There is no expectation of privacy in a public library. So we need to not have solid doors. And then we have 2 cased openings into the staff workroom, and we'd like to close those in and put in a door. Right now, we have patrons that wander into staff areas that can be unsafe. Matter of fact, our branch manager, she's here. Someone, a child drank the drink that was sitting on her desk. It's kind of
It
funny.
was a special needs child, and she just got away from her parents, and she ended up in the branch manager's office.
So, but anyway.
What did you have in that?
Soda. I think
I'm
she said
just
mellow
checking. You
yellow.
have to watch her. Oh, it had caffeine in it, you said?
I was looking for caffeine.
Yeah. Oh.
The board approved that though.
So we would like to perhaps close into space and make it a little less wanderability in our for our staff. And also too, it just cuts down on some noise. And then here is the area. This is our loading dock and our ramp into the where our books are delivered with the cataloger who stays there 4 days a week, and the book deliveries here. Not just for them, but mostly for staff as they're doing outreach or going to programs. Or the dumpster is just outside of this picture. When you want to take the trash, you have to try to get down that curb. And that makes it difficult to be able to do all of those things, to load your car, unload your car, take things to the trash can, any of that. Finally, for number 7 and 8, the library was built in 2001, and we'd like to replace the carpet and the paint in the entire facility. And you can see the examples here. We'd like to make it fun and fresh and inviting, but it's like the example barrel chair there has been recovered once already. And it's past the ability to be able to do that again. The next picture, these are just some examples of some of the things we would like to put like in the teen area, or even especially where you see the study carrels. Those have proven real popular in libraries where you don't take up a whole table of 4, you can just sit by yourself or fit 2 children in there and use either the computers we provide for checkout, a Chromebook, laptop, such thing as, or their own. They would be through power. The one you see in the top picture, that is an example of what the Hall County Library has. I contacted their vendor to see, what it was. And then these are just some other pictures we found from other vendors. And these are more type things we would like to do, like some individual single laptop chairs or two-person tables. We have some beautiful tables, but they take up a lot of room and people won't share. And that's evidence of what we're seeing at Satellite. We have one of our big tables at our Satellite library, but people won't share the table. So we're trying to figure out how to take out the big table and put in two small tables.
One
They-
person wants to sit at a big table by themselves?
No, but someone else won't come sit at the other end of the table.
It's been since the pandemic.
Oh,
We're-
okay.
They're having issues. People are wanting to sit further and further apart inside the
get it.
library.
And we only have large tables. We don't have any smaller tables in the
I thought we
library.
might need to buy you some deodorant. I didn't know what was happening.
No. So to recap, we would end up making 5 new public spaces, a children's story time room, a teen space, adult reading area, a new meeting room, and a study room with comfortable, appealing furniture and technology. 2 new staff spaces, the branch manager office and a children's story time storage and prep area. Over 1,000 additional library square footage previously used as administrative offices, and then a completely refreshed and welcoming library with carpet and paint. Now, my last question is for you. Can we solicit donors to help pay for this? I brought with me what we did in the Lumpkin Library, if I may. Would you like to pass this out for me? This is what we did at the Lumpkin Library when we were building that library space. Is the county made a new naming policy, and they said that we could name spaces for $50 a square foot or $10,000, whichever was greater. And that was for individual rooms in the library. So I brought to you the what we did. So each time we had a prospective donor who wanted to say, name a tutor room or name something, they had to fill this out. We came back before the Board of Commissioners for approval and did that. So I don't know if we have that ability to do that in this county to be able to help defray some of the costs that we know this program is going to incur. So we would like to do that. And the purpose is to request, this go out for informational purposes pricing. So then we can know what grant we can apply for with the state, because we have several options.
Has it worked well in Lumpkin County with
We
people?
sold everything on there except for the meeting room. We raised over nearly $200,000. But we had we had more spaces, as you can see from the
Mhm.
document that I handed you. But yes, a lot of people were, for example, the Sunrise Rotary Club of Dahlonega named a room, the Lumpkin County Schools. We had some families do it, some individuals. One was in an honorarium for the computer lab for somebody who helped really get that project moving. But a lot of people would like to name a room. Most of the tutor rooms were named in honor of somebody. So
Can we?
I mean,
Angie, what can
we have
do?
other departments accept donations now. In the
Ms.
county.
Davis?
Yeah, well, I'm just seeing this for the first time, but I mean, that sounds like it's incredibly successful. If we could take a look at it
Mhm.
and then we
Yeah.
can finalize it, that would be super. I appreciate having a draft.
oh, you're welcome.
So
And
thank
these are the exact documents we used after we had the naming policy, which I have a copy of the Lumpkin County Facility Naming Policy if you'd like that
Yeah,
as
that
well.
would be wonderful. That'll be a great jump start. Thank you.
Thank you. And they modeled that one after the UNG naming policy. Is how they did that, because I approached them the same way and asked, how can we help raise money? And they said, well, we have a naming policy. We name things after deceased people. And I said, well, I want to get money from living people. So, but that really did help, in doing the things for the library and making that project go forward.
Now, with some of this, like removing walls or whatever, have you contacted the construction person that, you don't want to hurt the
We
integrity?
explored it in 2021, and we got an idea of how much it would cost through a state pre-approved contract program, which I found out after that I'm not able to use here. And it was about $350,000. We have a designer project lead on hired already. Courtney
Orm
Courtney
from Vive
Orm.
Interiors. who
She
did-
helped with the Lumpkin County Library. She
Oh,
did
okay.
all of that. There are a bunch of different ways we can go financially. What we'd like is to be able to get some info on how to move forward, what it might cost and everything. At that point, we will go back to our state assistant for assistance, and he will decide which program we can use for which part of the library. Some of them will be a 90-10 split, where the state would pay 90% of the project, and the county would only be responsible for 10%.
I like
And
that.
other ones would be 50-50, like the carpeting and the paint, I know would be a 50-50 split.
No, there is an option of, he did say there's a possibility we could go on the capital outlay grant for the state. That does take years sometimes to get up the list, but we could also, Senator Gooch is familiar with all of that too, because he helped us get Lumpkin up the list. So perhaps, with knowing the right things and enough campaign, we can get our project up the list specifically if we have the funds in place as well.
Mr. Chairman, don't we have, is the impact fees for the library, is that for capital?
Has to be for new.
Purchase, it's gotta be new.
Books and
Gotta be new.
publications.
It's got to be new though. It'd be a new construction in reference to the building itself.
Right.
Mhm.
That would what impact fees would fall under. But yeah, I mean,
New capacity.
yeah.
You probably would have an increase in capacity, I
Right.
would think, that might qualify.
Some of it might, we just have to look into that and see. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, obviously, we have a lot of people who use the library.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people who actually depend on the library who don't have computer and stuff set up at home. So basically, you're asking the board tonight, basically to, okay, moving forward and try to figure out the total cost and what kind of grants might be available and
Yes,
things like that.
yes, sir. I'm asking for that. So then once we have a cost, we'll know what we qualify for.
I guess another question to our building officials here. So y'all look at getting new plans drawn and stamp approved engineer plans?
Well, we'll have to do that once we've,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
construction company, we'll have
Yeah,
to do
we'll
all
have to
that.
do.
We have met with James and Mr. Headley
Okay.
to present it to them as first, to make sure it was okay to bring it here.
So are you requesting the board to move this to the voting session so that it can be, so you can get started? Or are you willing to wait till April for
Well,
that decision?
Well, my
We'll
understanding
probably need to wait
is
till April and we'll let her look into
the
the
naming part.
naming part of it before we
That
make
would be
it.
down the road. My understanding and from talking to Melissa was that we could do a request for information
Mhm.
without a full formal bid, so we can get the a ballpark price. And
Uh-huh.
my understanding is, I'm not sure that you had to have a vote for that. I don't know. I'm not going to overstep my understanding.
Probably need to,
Yes.
Okay,
because, at some point in time, it's going to come back with some kind of dollar figure associated with it that the
Yes,
board's going
sir.
to have to deal with. So I would say yes. So if it's all right with the board, let's let council look at the documents that you provided them, and then we can take a vote on it on the first meeting in April.
okay.
I'm just sorry that
Questions?
it's coming up at this time. And maybe maybe prices will start going down by the time you get through all this red tape. But I mean, we don't have to say how expensive everything is. Won't get as much bang for our buck, so.
Well, librarians are pretty thrifty and we know
Yeah.
how to repurpose some things. So
Maybe
that's
you
the-
need to go to Washington, DC. Be a good place for you to be. But that first room, when you walk in the front door and you go around and where a lot of people meet,
Mhm.
what's happening to that room? I couldn't.
That's the main meeting room. We're not doing anything besides new carpet and paint in that room. If
Okay,
you continue down that hallway, that's
yes.
the room I'm talking about that we'd like to turn into a library meeting space.
Okay,
An additional space in addition to the large meeting room. So we
okay.
can have simultaneous programs or things happening in the library.
Is that room smaller
Yes, ma'am.
than this?
It is smaller, but taking out the wall to the storage room, it increases it by how much?
It would be considered a large conference room,
Okay,
is what it would be considered as.
Yes.
I thought that's a great idea. I
So
like that.
again, we just want to give back as much space to the library
Yeah.
as possible.
Mhm.
Any
Other
questions?
questions? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we have presentation of requests for additional funds for 2022 budget approved storm truck, Public Works Director Denise Farr. Denise.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. 2022 budget allowed for the purchase of a storm truck for Public Works. The estimated cost for that truck at that time was $230,000. We've received 2 quotes from Carolina Environmental Services for a Kentworth model. One model is a roll-off dump bed with a grapple. That was the first one that we thought we would purchase back when we had our budget hearings. And then the second model is a stationary bed and grapple at a price of $276,345. Yesterday afternoon, late, I received a call from CES informing me that Kentworth has now put a $5,000 surcharge on all truck chassis. So I think this is just another part of the supply chain management problems that we're going to be seeing. So now the request that I've come before you today is also increased another time. Public Works is respectfully requesting an increase of budget to $281,345 for the stationary bed, not the roll-off. The stationary bed is less expensive. That's a $51,345 increase, which equates to about a 22.5% increase. It's unbelievable, but this is the lowest price that we've been able to obtain.
What's the lead time on getting them?
1 year for both of these, 1 year.
1 year.
Some of
So we
the,
don't have to pay for it for a year?
no, sir, we have to pay for it.
We're paying for
now.
this with Splosh 6 leftover money anyway to start with.
Yes.
And I think the request is to use some of the remaining Splosh 6
Yes,
money
sir.
that we have to show up the difference,
Yes,
which
sir.
we still had like. And we knew this was going to happen because remember we talked about the list that we approved in Splosh. We saved back 200 and something $1,000 knowing that we'd have some overages
Yes.
as we went through some of these projects. And so this would be the first request for some of that overage.
Yes, and I want to tell you, it was very difficult to find one that they would guarantee delivery. Some of them were delivery to 24 months. So these big trucks, I know that the power company is really struggling now. They're having to wait over 24 months to get line trucks. So that's just,
Now, had you rather, well, put it this way, what would meet your needs better, the dump bed or the stationary bed?
well, we thought about the dump bed, the roll off, and
Yeah.
after we talked to some of the suppliers, that's pretty large. It's a 30 cubic yard trailer dump. So that gate that you have to extend
Uh-huh.
has to be level. So there's our terrain here in the county, we don't have a lot of level spaces. So we thought, well, that might be a waste of money. We may not be able to use it as often as we think. So
Mhm.
the stationary bed, we knew we could use for any place in the county.
Okay, because I didn't want, I didn't want to just make do,
Right.
and that was.
Oh,
that's what
we,
I s-
we like the idea of a roll-off dump. We just didn't know if it was worth that extra money, limited with the terrain, because once we started looking at it and see how long that track is,
Mhm.
it's pretty long.
But you wouldn't have to roll it off to load it. You could still load it as the stationary one, right? Like you could leave the container on the bed and still load it
Yes,
like that.
Yes, the container would not come off the bed.
Yeah,
It'd be loaded and unloaded with the grapple.
right. But if it was the roll off one, if you was in an area where you couldn't roll it off, you could still load it with it on the truck.
Yes, we
Right.
could,
Yeah.
we could.
I just nearly think, I mean, I know it's $30,000, but it's gonna be a lot of time when you go to dump it out, because when you're gonna be dumping, you're gonna be level where you can dump. And I mean, that's a lot of capability. That would be nice.
I'm certainly not gonna argue with you. If we can
Oh.
get the roll-off, then
Easier to empty.
we
Easier
would
to
like
empty.
it, but
Yeah.
I
Because when you get to once you get it loaded, you're gonna get to the point, wherever you're disposing, and it's gonna probably take at least 15 or 20 minutes to unload it.
Yes.
And I think it's something we ought to, think
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
I want us to get what we need.
Yeah,
If we're gonna spend this kind of money, we might need to, and I know it's money, but, spend a little more to really get, and, because I don't want us to get it and spend this money and say, oh, we should have done something else.
now the beds are a little different. There's more leeway with that stationary bed
Mhm.
as well.
Okay.
Than the roll-off. That was another reason we looked at it and thought if we were loading large debris, we may have more room, excuse me, to manipulate it, to put it in than it would be for a roll-off, but we Public Works would be happy with either truck. We just like to get it tomorrow, but unfortunately, that's not gonna happen.
Question, sir.
Go ahead.
So if we approve, I mean, is that something you can lock in the price or do we
The
need
price
to?
is locked in.
Is that state bid, Melissa?
Yes.
It's not a state vehicle, it's another department cost.
Source.
Okay.
It's like state, but it's not exact.
But we can lock that price in so they don't have another increase in
That's right.
2 months or 3 months or
So if we went with the,
tomorrow.
Yes. Yes.
Are you ordering the chassis separate from the accessories, or is it all one?
It's all one thing, but for some reason, Kentworth, with every chassis that's sent out, they're putting a $5,000 surcharge on it. Now, whether they're getting, having trouble getting that in, I don't know. Or they're having to haul it
Probably.
from across the country.
Locking people in.
locking them in on
Yeah,
that.
Cause
So,
I
Go
think that, CES, they buy the chassis, then they're the ones that install the grapple and the
Yes,
body
they
onto
are.
the chassis. So
They
you're
are.
getting a turnkey vehicle at the end, so.
and this grapple is a really good grapple. It has a lot of protection on underneath part of the arm for the hydraulics.
Mm.
So we were very impressed with their offer.
so with the $5,000 surcharge, we'd be looking at 303, 353 if we went with the
Roll off.
dump bed
Yes, sir.
and grapple, which is 73, 353, which would come out of what we have left in Splosh 6. And they wanted to move that to tonight so that we could go ahead and lock that in.
I would suggest that if we want to go back and give you guys, because it sounds like there's pros and cons on both sides. In
know,
order to
right.
give you guys flexibility, if we're fine with the dump, to give you the flexibility, not lock you in. Our vote doesn't lock you into the dump. If you go back and say, well, the other one's a little bit more flex, even it's less money, but we will approve the high water mark.
Yeah.
And
Up
then give you the up to.
And then you
Yeah.
can decide which one you like the best.
Staff and y'all to
Well, that would be great. Thank you.
So y'all good with moving that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, anything else on that one?
No, sir, I don't have anything
All
else.
right, anything else from the board? So we'll move on to presentation request for additional staff for MS4 stormwater program. Denise, you've got that?
Yes, sir. Last year during the budget hearings, Public Works requested an additional staff position for the purpose of managing our stormwater. And unfortunately, that was denied. So the responsibilities fell back on our project manager that works within the PW department. As a part of our MS4 program, we're all required to be certified and recertified every 2 years. So during our last recertification class, we were made aware that EPD is beginning to increase their focus and their efforts in monitoring the municipalities as they provide, to ensure that they provide sufficient staffing and funding for the projects. They're seeing some issues with that. This is a critical point for Public Works because our project manager will also be spending quite a bit of time in the next 2.5 to 3 years on our vertical and horizontal projects. Those projects are tied within our MS4 area, so they'll be very evident to EPD how much time this one person is spending on the program as well as other projects. That's why I'm coming before you tonight to give you an idea of overview of what we're required to do or going to be required to do in the MS4 program, as well as what our project manager is going to have to be required to do to manage these vertical and horizontal projects. So
Who is our project manager now?
that position is open.
Open, okay.
Just a little bit of background.
Talbert is at the moment,
Talbot.
is helping out in that deal.
Wears many hats.
Yeah,
Yes.
the young guys, he's
Brian.
the one, Brian, yeah, is he the one that did this? Did he did this?
Yes, ma'am. He was. part of
Okay.
this. Yes, ma'am.
So you've not found a replacement?
No, ma'am. Have not.
I noticed you didn't get any applications.
I haven't, well, when Brian Young left, we did hire someone to fill his position. He was here 3.5 months and did not like the work. So he has left to go to work in the private industry.
Mhm,
And this morning, as a matter of fact. So we will have an open position.
okay.
A little bit of background information in March of 2014. And before I start, there's going to be a lot of acronyms. I apologize, but it is a federal program and they love their acronyms. Well, anyway, in 2014, in March, EPD approved Dawson County Stormwater Management Program and we issued us an NPDES permit for Phase 2 Municipal Separate Stormwater System. That's what MS4 stands for, permit. And this is a 5-year permit. We will be reapplying for our next permit in March 2024. We are also, as part of a permittee, we have to submit a stormwater management program, an SWMP, which we call a swamp, no pun intended. We are a local issuing authority. That means that we are able to issue erosion control permits. We are permitted to conduct inspections, enforce ordinances, collect fees, and handle complaints. And usually that's done through our planning and zoning department. We also have an MOA with EPD, which stands for a memorandum of agreement that allows us to review our own erosion plan. So if a contractor comes in and says, here's the plans, we get to review them, comment on them, and approve them. If we don't have the MOA, that goes through us to EPD. EPD comments on them, brings the comments back to us, recategorize those comments, and then meet with the contractor again, and you can see the vicious cycle. It's very inefficient. So this MOA is very important to us. And the reason I'm mentioning these because our GSWCC group monitors all of our LIAs and our MS4 programs. So if there's a red flag in one, you can be sure that it goes out into the other two areas. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, how closely knitted all three of these programs are and how well they're monitored. The changes that we brought to our attention, of course, is adequate staffing to ensure that we have sufficient allocation of time for all the MS4 functions, that we have adequate funding, that we have certified staff, and we have adequate response time. Now, the other thing that we are expecting is that when we have our new MS4 permit in 2 years, that they may increase our MS4 area. Right now, it's a little over 13 and a half square miles. We think that they're going to push that a little bit towards the lake area and up to the county line. So that's going to include a little bit more work, and we'd like to start to get a handle on that before that happens in 2024. If you'll look over to the right-hand side, you'll see the additional MS4 staff responsibility that our project manager is also responsible for. Now, these reports involve, it's a yearly report that we have to do. We also have check-ins or audits periodically from EPD when they, I don't know, when I guess they feel like it, or maybe they drive through or they hear something, I don't know. But we do get little audits and little check-ins. But our project manager will be looking at the roundabout and managing the roundabout at SR 53 in Dawson Forest. We think and hope to start that later on in the spring. Be responsible for the roundabout at SR 136 in Shoal Creek. That is to hopefully start construction in the summer. The roundabout at Lumpkin Campground is complete, but because it was complete in February this year, it will also be included in our report. The Rock Creek soccer fields will be included. Fire station number 2, sanitary sewer, we are still waiting from Townley Construction to know when that is supposed to. We're hoping that it'll start this year. Rock Creek Trail relocation is complete, but it wasn't completed till after the first of the year. So again, this will be included in our report. The restrooms at Rock Creek, the canoe put in, we thought would be completed by April or May, but we've had some Corps and EPD permitting issues. So that is going to be increased probably into the summer before we can get that completed. And then we have the Georgia Power Make Ready program. The 2 large vertical projects that he'll be responsible or she'll be responsible for is the new health departments and the new 911 centers. This project manager is also responsible for all driveway and utility encroachment permits. They are responsible for inspecting all the new roads, storm structures, and ponds within all these new subdivisions that we have coming in to the county. And they're also responsible for plan review for all new developments. As I said before, the swamp is a part of the program that is a requirement. We have 6 minimum control measures. I'm going to go really briefly through those 6 measures. The first one is our public outreach and education and our public involvement. These pictures to the left are all of our involvement last year with all our residents. We do a school presentation and activity books. We try to do that 4 times a year. Trunk or treat, adopt a mile. They're involved with our recycling program. We do Facebook posts. We try to get 2 in there per week, or if we can, sometimes it's monthly. And we also try to update our Dawson County webpage with any type of programs that relates to the MS4 program that's about to start. We try to do some advertisement before they begin. Our involvement, we have Tire Amnesty Day, the Shore Sweep program, Rivers Alive cleanup, electronic recycling day. Again, here, Adopt a Mile, and our storm drain stenciling, which we hope, in the past, we've done this more on an adult level, but we hope to bring this into maybe the middle school area. And you'll see a little picture of this on the next slide here. Number 3, the illicit discharge and detection elimination we spend a lot of time on this because this is very critical in our report. Our MS4 area at the top of the slide, I'm sorry you can't see it very well, but all those little dots are areas of concern that we have to locate, categorize, and document all points of illicit discharge that's reported to us. We have to label, categorize, and evaluate all catch basin, inlets, flumes, junction boxes, and ditches. Anything that's a storm drainage system within our county, we're required to report on that on a yearly basis. Once we identify them, we have to inspect them, evaluate each storm structure on a bi-yearly basis. If we find an issue, if one is blocked, if one is damaged, we have to go into a repair program that we take pictures of and we document it before and after, and then we explain what the remediation process was. We also have to provide and track public reporting. That is the illicit discharge document that we have online that the public can go in and fill out and report back into us. And we stay on a one-to-one communication once that is sent into us. Now, because we are an LIA, we do have people that go to EPD directly, but because we are a local issuing authority, EPD says they're a local issuing authority, so really you have to go through them. But we do include EPD on large single point discharge issues. We had EPD up here a few weeks ago, spent 2 days. We had a discharge problem over by the auto shop, went under 400 and deposited into Lake Lanier there off of Kylo Church Road. So, and the last thing is the IDD form provided on the county website is for reporting and tracking purposes. And we log the number of these every time this is accessed. It looks like a bad EKG. Shows you every time someone's gone in, and that's part of the reporting process that we have to provide that to EPD at the end of the year. Illicit discharge continues, but this relates to the outfalls that's relocated in the county. We have to identify all those. We have to evaluate them. We have to locate them, and we have to provide outfall screening and sampling. I don't know why that looks like that here, but the sampling, we take the samples, but we actually take it to a lab for them to test the turbidity and everything in those samples. So we don't do that personally. We just collect it. Construction site discharge control. This also keeps us very busy. The middle one down at the bottom is the one that discharged into the area there at Kylo Church. And this came under 400 from a construction site right behind AutoZone. But we had, in 2021, we had 31 commercial development sites. We had to do plan review, record all plan revisions, requested and relate those to the erosion requirements. So if we're reviewing a set of plans, we have a spreadsheet and we have to document every comment we make from that erosion plan that the contractor has to resolve. We also have to do weekly inspections on all the stormwater and erosion issues that require evaluation and documentation of issues and resolutions. In 2021, we had 71 residential development sites. The road, stormwater conveyance systems and ponds require weekly inspections, and all stormwater and erosion issues require evaluation, documentation of issues and resolutions. Here again, we also have to provide turbidity testing and document those results. Number 5, post-construction controls and new developments. I'm not too sure why this is. So I'll read these, just be sure you can understand what's under there. We provide monitoring of all community service roads within the MS4 area. We provide reports pertaining to county and public involvement that's related to the MS4 housekeeping requirements. And we enforce requirements through regular inspections. And we continue awareness programs with all the HOA and commercial management companies. And down at the bottom here on the right-hand side, you can see an example of our stormwater stenciling on the top of our. We think that the middle school kids would enjoy doing something like that. And lastly, the good housekeeping and pollution prevention. We are to provide public reporting system that's for the illicit discharge that we do on our website. We track all the complaints and provide explanation of the process of the resolution and compliance. We also do an inventory and inspection of all the county-owned facilities, and we monitor problematic areas. Those are dumping areas, as you can see over here, down on the left-hand side with all the trash bales and things there in front of the dumpster. And we monitor our webpage activity. That is the representation. It looks like a bad EKG there. So that is the responsibilities of the MS4 manager. He serves two purposes, or she. They are required to do the administration as well as the inspections. In some of the larger counties, that's a dual role because they have a team of inspectors that's usually assigned per zone. But for us, it would just be the same person doing all of this. So due to the new efforts of EPD, we, Public Works respectfully request the board and the commissioners to re-examine the request for the stormwater administrator and inspector position for the purpose of managing the county's MS4 program.
Questions for Denise?
So let's see,
That's a lot of information.
my page
Yes.
25, where it talks about additional MS4 staff responsibilities and all the project managements. So we have a position open that, what was the name that was in the position?
Brian Young.
Brian. So he was doing this. So what would that, but if you fill that position, what is that person going to do?
Well, Brian was doing both. He was doing
Mhm.
stormwater management and project management. And he did a very good job of hitting the highlights. But there were areas where we need improvement. I've just received the report that we submitted last year that they're asking for more details on it. So I think that there was only so many hours in the day. And so we had to choose. We usually choose MS4 program if there's a problem, but if we're out and have a road project, like a roundabout or something, there's a safety issue, we have to go there first. And it may take 2 or 3 days to get that handled before we can go over and actually look at an illicit discharge. And all that time, people are calling EPD saying, nobody's been out here. We haven't talked to anybody. Well, they usually have talked to us. So those type of things is what EPD is starting to see. They realize the complexity of trying to do both of these things.
My other question is not necessarily for you as much as it is for whoever wants to answer it. The fire station number 2 sanitary sewer, that was an emergency thing that we moved along very quickly. Is that still not done?
It's still not done. No, sir.
What's the holdup on that?
Yeah, I mean,
Was it
we
DOT?
moved that forward
DOT?
that night to,
Did we get the stuff from
Jackie
DOT?
Townley, I think, has had some issues. He
Mr.
wasn't.
Talbot probably got an answer.
Talbert, if you.
Mr. Talbot, man of many hats.
Apparently, there was some, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was some discrepancies in between what Jackie Townley had originally bid to do. It was like
Yes.
$127,000, and what Etowah Water and Sewer requested him to do. And from what I'm understanding, he wanted to go about 6 foot deep of the pipe all the way from the station, all the way to the road underneath. And they're telling him they wanted to go 18 foot deep under the road all the way up. And it's kind of a stalemate because you know Jackie's really busy and I don't think he's real interested in doing this unless it's rebid. And I've made contact with him at least 6 times. I've tried to push him along to get it done. Haven't gotten any results. Keep saying he's gonna do it, but everybody here knows Jackie. The other good news is as far as I know so far, the station sewer system is actually holding up at this point. We have to do it because the EPD told us we had to do it and the environmental health. So that's the story. We're hoping Jackie to get on it. If not, we're gonna have to go back pull the board and try to refit it and start all over.
So we quit washing. Well, big thing, we quit washing
There's no
trucks
liquid.
inside the bay too. And they had that sand.
that's what I was getting ready to say.
System that filtered through the sand and went to the septic tank.
Yes.
Yeah, the chief changed the operations, which lessened that impact.
So I guess the next question then, could we put a tank to hold that? And filter it like into gray water or something as far as the wash with the wash? When these car washes reuse water, they go through a tank and we've got that holding tank down there for water at Station 2. I was wondering if we could have the system with just a tank that goes back into that tank. Saves a lot of money.
Yeah, we'd have to look.
So they're making us do it.
EPD's making us. do it.
Just like they're making us get this other person, this unfunded mandates from the federal government.
So it sounds like, in reference to the staff request, that this job has outgrown what one person can probably do as a project manager and a storm manager. The other question would be certificate. So your new project manager, I guess, when you hire that person from the person that just left, your goal will be for them to be certified as well in MS4, as well as the new person, if the board approves that, being certified
It
in
would be-
MS4.
It would be nice to have both of them certified,
Because
just in case.
in case something happens, we'll have somebody
yes.
certified,
Yes,
which I would recommend. I did not see a cost.
$93,632.
Okay,
How much?
Benefits and everything.
That's benefits and everything.
93,000.
$93,632. I just got that number today. That's why it's not, sorry.
What's the actual salary?
We're thinking around 65.
65.
That's more than a building official, ain't it?
We'd like to get an engineer
get
for this
an
position. I just don't know if
You
that,
got it, Talbot.
if we'd be able to do
Oh.
that.
Okay, any other questions for Denise in reference to that request? 93,632.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions?
I just wonder if we'll be able to fit it. You know, we can approve it or what and then they just keep advertising and advertising and advertising on a lot of these.
It's that way with every department.
Yeah,
We can't
Do
get,
what, Tim?
It's the way it is. We got inspectors positions, we've got
Well, I know.
fire
it.
and EMS, we got jugglers and deputies, and
Well,
Tauber's had
EMT,
two job openings for how long, Tom? You already filled them?
Well, I turned part-time to full-time.
That helped.
Custodians, but I'm at full staff now,
Good.
but I haven't asked for any full-time positions just for the revenue last.
I wonder why we hadn't seen you.
I think you're the only one.
We did upgrade some of them, which is good.
yeah.
He needed. All right. Any other questions in reference to this item? All right, we'll move on to the next one, which Denise has as well. Presentation of transfer station operational decisions and challenges.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a good one.
Best for last. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, before we start, I just wanted to kind of give a recap of what we've done in the last 3.5 months. And to describe a little bit about the transfer station. As you know, when you walk in, the right side is where we always would take residential trash. And over on the left-hand side is where we've taken the commercial and the construction trash. Now, the building itself has 3 structures. It has a foundation, concrete structure that goes around the building and the floor sits on. It also has poured concrete piers that the 3rd structure sits on, which is the framing of the building. The secondary structure was put in several years ago by the county. That is the one that I showed you in the presentation back in January. And the purpose of that, it provides a chute or a deflection system for that trash to be pushed over into the trash containers. If we didn't have that, it's required, because if we didn't have it, when you pull in the trailers and you push that trash, there's a gap between that foundation wall and the trailer. And that large construction trash falls in between there, gets wedged, damages our trailer as well as the tires on the trailer. So that push or that deflection wall apparatus is very important. And that is the one that was damaged and was pulling away from the primary or the foundation of the building, the one that I showed you. So in the last part of December, the 23rd, I think it was, I sent out an email to all the board members telling them that there was a gap there that had exponentiated the distance between that foundation and the push plates or the deflection plates. I was afraid that that was going to pull and fall and then take the sides of the building down as well, because there was some attachment to that. So after talking with the county manager, we decided to close that part of the transfer station and only have the residential side open. So on the 20th of January is when I brought the presentation before the board with all those colorful pictures showing you the beams and the columns and the deflection plates. And at that time, the decision was made to keep the commercial and construction side closed until we could get repairs or removal of the secondary structure, and until we could get information concerning the operational function and refurbishment options that were going to be available to the commission board. So glad to tell you that a week ago Wednesday, we were able to remove all those secondary structure without any visual impairments to the foundation. So that secondary structure is completely gone. So now we've opened both sides for residential traffic or residential trash. So now that has led us up to here. So I'll start with the presentation. I think the first thing that we'll need to do, or I hope that the commission board will do, we'll decide what type of trash or debris we're going to accept and how is that going to be discarded. Is it going to be bagged household mattresses, furnitures, and recycling, which is referred to as a type A trash that is manually discarded? It's carried from the trailer or the truck to the trash bin. Or we're going to look at going back to using commercial and construction trash and debris, which is referred to as a trash B, which will require floor dumping. There's no way they can manually carry that and dispose of that into the trash. Or maybe we'll have a combination of the A and B type trash. Of course, will be up to y'all. The consideration for which way we go, of course, I think we need to look at the EPD rules and regulations. We are permitted by rule. This is what I've been told by EPD. I've volumes of conversations with them and emails and talked to the EPD office down in Atlanta. This was it's a 144-page document, the Georgia rules for solid waste 391-3-4. It's very intense in some areas. So I went through this with the EPD representative trying to find things that would be that you may have questions on in this presentation. So the first rule actually, and I hope I get this word right, processable waste gives a definition of the waste that can go in a transfer station. The EPD representative also told me it's just not the waste that's important, it's how it is handled. So that's something else that we'll have to consider while we're making these decisions. The next rule has to do with groundwater and surface monitoring. It's a biggie for us because we have no drainage system. Plus, we're 550 feet from a trout stream that has an endangered species, as we like to call it, the darter. I'm sure y'all have all heard of that little critter. The next rule that I thought might be of some help is the categories of operations that is cited in this rule. It talks about that the floors and the area have to be cleaned and well drained, and the trash or debris is not allowed to be outside the facility walls. And you know, at times that it's a problem with us keeping all that in that contained area. The second thing, sewage solids, which I haven't had anyone ask me to be able to dump a porta-johny. So I think we're good there, but just in case we could not accept that. We have issues with dust and odors, as you can imagine out there, especially in the summertime when it gets hot. We also have a great deal of issue with rodents and insects and other pets. We had facilities come out just a few months ago and get a rat, a quite sizable rat, out of the Public Works Department. And I know all that comes from the transfer station. The fifth one was of real concern, no contaminated runoff from wash water, which we would have to have if we wash the floors, but this is also talking about leachate from the trash itself. And of course, I don't think we have anything to worry about with hazardous waste. We haven't had a request for certain lithium batteries and things. So, but this is part of that rule. Consideration number 2 is OSHA. These are the top 10 safety violations that OSHA has in a variety of companies that do different things. Of those 10, 6 are relevant to the operation of the transfer station. And as we go through the presentation, you'll see these little boxes off to the left. It kind of gives you an idea of what's relevant in those areas. Challenge number 1, our trailers are longer than our dumping platforms. That means that we will have limited sight distance and grapple reachability. If you'll remember that presentation that I provided in January, the whole side of the wall was gone. That's because the grapple can't see as it reaches over, and because of some of the construction debris that we pick up, some of the roofing or the 2x4s or whatever, they shift in that grapple and they hit those walls. So just to know that's an issue with these mini X's that we use. And I should say, in all fairness, mini X's aren't designed for this type of function. They're designed to work in the dirt and to remove rocks and things. So their arm, their hydraulics are all shielded. You don't have to worry about it, but they're open in reality. So any of this debris can move and shift, and as it does, it punctures these hydraulic lines. So that's one of the problems that we have. We also, in the trailers, they have a support bar that goes right down the middle of the trailers, and it's to keep the sides of the trailers from wobbling and to keep it in form. We have to be very careful not to hit that bar. And the X's there show you the area that we have the most trouble with. Possible solutions, of course, we can increase the width of the floor, which would be very expensive, which I don't know if that's a very viable solution, but it is a consideration. We could purchase adequate packing equipment. Those are mounted in the floor in the middle of the transfer station. They have a much extended reach. The person that's operating that can actually see over, and their hydraulics are shielded. Or we could accept only type A trash right now, which limits the placement and the packing requirements because it's hand thrown in there. We can shake the trailers at times if we need to, which helps distribute that bag trash. Challenge number 2, we have some fall and equipment hazards in the loading area. The first slide here is relevant to foot or pedestrian traffic. We have no safety railings. We have no equipment barricades that barricade the public from the equipment area, because at times we have them both in the same area. And we don't have any restricted areas. And that again goes back to being able to separate the public from the equipment. And there's a lot of blindness sides in those equipment in the mini X's. The second is just what I said, the equipment hazard on the loading floor. Those rails that are showed in there now were just put in there once we removed the secondary structure, and they are not anchored. They're just placed there hoping that people won't get any closer than that. And Kristen, if you'll help me with this second. Yes, this video shows you how close this mini X gets to the edge of that loading platform. It's a little scary. It also shows you why when he reaches out, he can't see the end of it. That's why the building is in the shape that it's in. Right now, we have 2 mini X's. One we use at the transfer station and one we use for the road projects. We had a failure a week ago Saturday with the mini X because one of the hydraulic lines got burst. So we were dead in the water. We had trash almost shoulder high out there. We had to leave it till the next Monday, which was not something that EPD would have approved of, because our other mini X was on site on a road project site. So that was a little bit of an issue. But Monday, we were able to come in and actually find a hydraulic hose that would work. So we shut the transfer station down for 3 hours and we cleaned the floors. We got everything out and then we opened it back up. But that's why we had a little time with the floors being, the transfer station being closed. Possible solutions, of course, we're going to need safety rails for the equipment and the pedestrians. Now, the push wall for equipment dumping and packing, before I presented this, I spent a good bit of time talking to Leach and Associates. They are a consulting group that does the engineering, design work and construction work for transfer stations. They also do it for the refurbishment of transfer stations. They were very kind and spent hours and volumes of emails and videos to try to help me come up with an idea of what we could use. And they also provided me some estimates on cost. So this push wall, that's the middle picture there, is actually a concrete wall that is anchored into the concrete floor. A small tire, rubber tire wheel loader pushes that trash up into its bucket using the wall to push against, brings that trash back into the bucket. It's easier to hold than it is with the grapple. And then its arm can place it easier and dump more than the grapple can. And then, of course, the third thing, we will need to place portable concrete barriers to separate the equipment and pedestrians traffic. and to establish restricted traffic areas for and scheduling protocols, because we may have one area that has equipment working. And then we have this area over here where the pedestrians are. We may have to learn how to shift that. So that's something else that's what the scheduling protocols means. Okay, number 3 will be health and environmental. Excuse me. You can see people come in and unload their truck and sweep, and there's dust and things everywhere. We also are going to have to look at the leachate, which I was also told that it's called garbage juices. No, it's disgusting, but that's what it's referred to. That area would be on the floor area as well as under the trucks, because it could seep down as people are pushing the trash. Possible solutions, again, type A trash, reslope the existing concrete floor and equip with drainage lines, a drainage tank and a pumping system. That would be required for type B trash according to EPD, because that leachate, that garbage juice is all over the floor. So there's no way to contain it. So it has to be drained. It cannot get in the groundwater. It cannot get to the creek or to the creek behind us. And then the third thing was increase staff for the purpose of continual monitoring of residential dumping and traffic habits. And that would be type B. The option for type A and B trash, these numbers came from Leak and Associates about 2 weeks ago. The building improvement with the push wall that we talked about, the resloping of the floor, we don't have a positive drainage floor. We have a concrete floor. We don't have a lot of damage, but we do have it where it settles. So we do have some little puddles. So we have to reslope the floor, put a drainage system in, and they estimate that to be $408,000. The equipment for the rubber tire loader and the new packing equipment, if we decided to do that, would be $230 for the loader and $320 for the packing equipment. We'll be looking at operating, that's operating equipment. Then we look at concrete barriers and safety rails. And all that totals with additional staff, I'm sorry, that as well, $1,018,000. Type A trash only. We'd like to have an additional mini X just in case one breaks down and we don't have the issue of the trash piling up again. The estimated cost for that's $150. We are definitely going to need safety rails, a little over $10,000 for those. Additional staff, full-time staff to be able to monitor the dumping habits of the residents and to be able to ensure that they are out of the equipment area. And then to designate pedestrian walk areas, which we can do that with paint for around $3,000. So an estimated $198,500. Of course, Public Works recommends for right now the transfer station accept only type A trash, which is the household or consumer garbage, mattresses and furnitures that will be manually discarded. There'd be no floor dumping. That would help with the reduction in operational issues regarding the site distance and the grapple extensions, reduction in equipment repair, reduction in damages to the exterior of the building, a reduction in environmental and health concerns, and an increase in overall efficiencies and increase in overall safety of residents and employees. Now, what I did also is I went to the 3 surrounding counties to see what they did and to get their ideas on the do's and don'ts, what was working for them. Hall County has 12 compactor sites that accept only bagged household garbage, and each one of those sites also have a recycling center for different types of recycling. All of those sites are manned. They have 13 compactor sites, but they own the landfill. And their residents have to pay part of their property tax. They have to pay a garbage fee. So a lot of this is free to them. Forsyth County has 3 convenience centers, bagged household trash only. They also have an area for recyclables, and those are separated recycling, not the type that we have. They have 3 convenience centers and recycling. All the other trash goes to the landfill, which is privately owned. Pickens County has 2 convenience centers. That's for bagged household trash and recycling. And all of the trash goes to the landfill, and both of those landfills are privately owned. They tell me, due to the overall cost of type B trash, that the counties do not accept the type of trash other than the type A at their facilities. So that is my presentation and the information I've been able to gather.
Questions?
What's the transfer station originally designed for? How many like tons and how's all that stuff? I've got a lot of questions because I've got a tremendous amount of calls
Right.
from citizens about this issue specifically for whatever reason. So how many tons was it originally designed for? That might be a Dave question.
That's
you might
probably,
know.
the transfer station, I believe, is 25 years old. I have no idea what its original design was for, other than trash.
How many tons are we taking in, like stopping the construction and post stopping the
I'll
construction?
have to get those to you. I don't have them with me tonight, but I will get that to you. I know that we are operating $8,000 last year in a good. That's all we made, $8,000.
8,000. And that was another question. So my understanding, the way that the transfer station works is we get paid per pound that we take to the landfill in
Hosting.
hosting
have a-
fee. And so if we reduce our amount of garbage that we take in, then that reduction goes, so that number goes down. So we could be running in a negative then if that would be the case.
Well, we get 50 cents. I think it's 50 cents a ton or something like that. It's not very much. And I can give you all that information. I just don't have it with me. But I can tell you, for as much garbage as we sent out last year, we only made $8,000. That includes, in all fairness, that includes all the operation of the transfer station, all the employees, all the benefits, all the equipment repair.
Yeah, we run a lot through that enterprise fund. I mean, it's actually a revenue generating thing. We've used a lot that we've used some of that revenue to offset other areas, I think, in the past for expenses. So
With that 50 cents per ton, it really, what we take in up here and haul down there, it's not enough to affect it, but anything that goes into Eagle Point landfill, we get 50 cents per ton. So if they do 2,000 ton a day, we should be getting $1,000 a day from Eagle Point landfill, the way they understand the agreement
right.
was negotiated. And that was because it was within so many, within like a quarter, so many feet of the Dawson County line. When that landfill was put in, that was kind of what we got. And that was a question that I kind of had talked to Dave and Denise about, is I would like to check in to make sure we are, figure out if there's a way that we're getting what we're supposed to be getting. I know they send us a check, but we don't know,
How to measure that.
how to measure
Yeah,
that.
It's not based on our garbage, it's based on all the garbage they receive.
Well, they go on scales, as you know.
Yeah,
So that
They weigh it.
it's weighted when they come in, or actually when they leave and when they come in.
yeah. Because like when we get our invoice from Eagle Point, I think it's a $2.75 per ton charge for Forsyth County, a 75-cent per ton charge for
The state.
the state, and then a 50 cent per ton charge for Eagle. Like it breaks it down on everybody that's hauled in there. So
But if we have a reduction, then waste taken there, then it's a reduction in income that we see. Is that?
yeah,
It's not
it's just not a lot of money,
Just
but
not
yeah.
I
But
think we
if
paid.
they can't dump it here, they'll go there, dump it, they'll still get the money.
Well, I mean, that leads me
I
to,
thought it was on the whole take in that day.
That's only ours.
No,
Only
it's for everything that goes into Eagle Point.
Oh,
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yes,
Oh,
everything.
So our
goes.
contract
Not-
50 cents.
It's supposed to, from what I understand, and I'm not, I kind of want to look at the documents to make sure, because this was what, 20
Yeah.
years ago. But any, if Eagle Point, they take in trash from, Atlanta or whatever, all that trash that comes in here that goes across their scales, if they do like 2,000 tons a day, we should get 50 cents on every ton
Okay.
that comes in there.
Mhm.
So what we take in up here, if we did reduce what we took at the landfill, it would reduce that number, but you're not talking about, I think we might do 20 tons a day, or I don't even think it would be close to 100 tons. So you're looking at $50 a day. If it was 100 tons, is what it would reduce. We actually kind of would technically get a rebate, I guess.
I think that number was about 500,000 revenue generated out of it.
It used to be,
A
but
lot more, yes.
since the landfill has sold, and that's one reason that I kind of wanted to be able to check into that, but since the landfill has sold, they have reduced what they actually take in, from what I understand. So
Eagle Point.
Eagle Point
Yeah.
has. So that's why one thing that fund is is going down because of that.
Yeah, they had some kind of agreement, but they couldn't expand
Yeah, and they had
something else.
they had an issue with, they can take the, the solidified sewage type stuff, and they had an issue where they had taken too much of it and it had caused a slide. So they had a big deal with the EPD. So they actually had to cut their tonnage down to try to when they were doing that. And that's where a lot of that reduction in the enterprise fund, you'll see that it's down because they're not accepting as much trash as they used to accept. But I don't know, that's just from kind of what I've talked to people, but I've not actually seen anything that says this is what we take, this is what we're paying you. It's got to be there somewhere because, Forsyth County and the state does it too. So there has to be some way to look at that.
Should be some kind of document that's coming in when we get a check.
Right.
I'll check with finance.
Okay.
They can tell me.
So. You said we made $8,000. Was that beyond
We
our
cleared,
cost?
we cleared
Okay,
$8,000.
all right. So we did make an $8,000 profit.
The class B is a very broad category, and I think that's
Yes.
where I get hung up on is I get, if somebody brings in a whole building that's been demolished in a semi truck that needs to dump it. I get that. A farmer called me and said, I've got some paper trays
Plastic.
that, huh?
I think it was a gentleman I talked to. Plastic. Yes.
Yes, I don't know the egg industry or chicken industry, but it was some trays that they've been using the facility for ever.
Mhm.
And they were concerned that we're just kind of dumping everything, no pun intended, into the class B, which really is not as bad, a bag of household garbage versus a bag of paper trays. We call this B, we call this A. It's the same thing. So is there a way for us to potentially narrow down the scope of what we define as class B? So we don't take maybe heavy
Right.
concrete slabs, but we are able to take or 2x4s that are over 30 feet long, but
Right.
it's going to knock out the side of the building. But we have some give and take to be able to work with our citizens that have used this facility for many years.
Well, I believe it was the same gentleman I talked to, and I told him, I said, I was instructed for residential. That's not residential, but if you put them in bags, bring them on. That way I can say it's bag trash. I'm not going to be looking in your garbage trash. Just bring them and we'll dump them on the residential side and you can pick them up. And there's no dumping on the floor, but I will tell you, when we shut the transfer station down, we first shut it, it was no problem. Everybody was carrying their trash. Over time, people have come in and said, look, all these shingles and all these 2x4s, I re-roofed my house. That's residential. I killed this deer in my backyard. It's residential. These fence posts and this retaining wall came from the side of my house. It's residential. So there's a lot of arguments, and I agree with you, how to tell them or instruct them before they get there. I don't want them to have to leave with their trailer still full. So it has been quite the quandary to try to be able to work with some of these folks. And some of them dump it, and then we look at it and we're like, oh no, you don't need this. Well, then we can't tell them, hey, pick that up and put that back on your trailer and leave. So we've just, and we have no way to push that trash now, and haven't had for 3.5 months. So we've been using that Midi-X to be able to still do that. And we are still doing it, but it does cause some scheduling issues. And we've had to have people wait because the area, it just gets so full so quick.
What if we defined it as B is anything that you can't pick up and throw in there, just like we're doing a bag of garbage. So if a guy
Yeah.
pulls up with, I do kind of understand the premise of
Mhm.
you can't determine a bag full of paper, whatever, versus a bag for this, but to me, putting it in a plastic bag, a bunch of cardboard is less environmentally friendly than putting cardboard in a landfill. So that defeats the point,
And
in
it's
my opinion.
impractical.
And it's
Yeah.
On the
unpractical.
scale that they have it, it's impractical.
But if they could pull up, and whether we define it as A, or we're not having to pick out, all right, that's B, that's A, that's B, that's A. If they can physically pick it up and put it in there, so we don't have to rely on the issues that we're having, would that solve, it seems like that would solve a lot of this without having to just do away with the service that we've been offering.
I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think when I came before the board the first time, I think maybe the definition of residential just wasn't elaborated.
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
So we were trying to do what we were instructed to do, and we were hesitant, thinking that that's, it's still a small community. And how
Sure.
people get out and say, oh, no, they're going back to taking commercial trash now. And then one day we have people lined up saying, well, you let this guy do it. Why can't? So we've been trying to work with people, even though we know a lot of that's not residential trash, but we don't want to fuel the fire, so to speak. So, but I think that's a very good idea, just as long as they can.
Pick it up, man.
Pick it
Put
up.
it in instead of you having to rely on
Yes.
the equipment that's causing the
Yes.
damage.
Or dumping it on the floor where we have leachate and
Mhm.
problems
Seems like
that.
the household in, I don't know, garbage, but I mean, the pictures you've shown, the household garbage has got the liquids in it more
Oh,
than
yes.
some 2x4s. I mean, the leachate seems like it would come from the household garbage. So it's a moot point. B is going to create leachate and A is not.
Well, when we have construction dumping, it's just not, shingles and 2x4s. We have cans of paint thinner, which we're not supposed to have. We
Right,
have
right.
paint. We have issues
That
that
should be
we,
illegal anyways.
it is, and they do it anyway. And we don't know it till they dump it, and then we start seeing it ooze out from underneath. And two, if they're on a construction site, they've got guys that are working, so they have trash cans. So they bring their trash that has every day's lunch or breakfast or whatever in it, and they dump that with the construction trash.
So
So
we
then
take that.
yes, and they mix it all together. So you've got eaves and 2x4s on top of black trash bags, and they don't separate it. So we have quite the challenge to try to keep people happy and try to help
I
them.
just think we need to find a happy medium instead of just drawing a line. And this is my
Yes.
opinion and the phone calls that I've received. Is shutting down complete construction stuff versus trying to find a good definition
Right.
that the people there can easily see. All right, they can throw that in, whether it's a brick that they can throw in or whether it's a bag of trash that weighs the same amount of weight. It seems like that would be an easy compromise to be able to mitigate the issues that you've explained
Mhm.
here and continue to offer a service.
Yeah, I'd rather not throw any bricks in. We've got some damages to our trailers, but I get your point.
Or maybe
Yes.
eliminate concrete. I mean,
Yes,
that might be an
yes.
easily
We-
definable thing.
We have a lot of problems with the sides of our trailers.
Yeah, and that might be something that you could
Mhm.
define easy. Don't do concrete
Yeah.
slabs or something.
Yeah.
And as long as it's just concrete, it can go to an inert landfill and it won't even cost as much.
Right.
You know, you're not doing it by the ton, then you're doing it by volume. So, I mean, that's what we do. I try to send everybody that's got that somewhere else,
Mhm.
because it's not a cost effective, way to do it.
Right.
And,
So
it's,
y'all are y'all the alternative to the construction stuff? I don't know what plan B would be. If
we
they
take everything, we
Y'all take
take
everything.
it all. Most of our stuff is primarily construction, but we're set up more to handle
Right.
that. Like we load everything. They're loading with a mini excavator that's probably 12 or 15,000 pound machine, and where we're loading with a 50,000 pound
Right.
machine. So we just have a lot more.
So there is an alternative in Dawson County to take that
Yes.
bigger stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think we need to, I think this may be what y'all are talking about now, may be a good for now solution till we can get some stuff worked out, because I think the citizens have become accustomed to being able to dump whatever up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And, but if we could just limit it to, like you're saying, if you can put it in the back of a pickup truck to load it, then you can unload it in the trailer until we get it a better solution
No
to
dumping
where,
on the floors where y'all
Yeah.
can scoot it.
yeah, because that's what the problem is now is when when the deflector or chute or whatever failed, there's no way to get it into the trailer without
Right.
physically picking it up
Yeah,
with
yeah.
something. But I agree. I mean, we need to. Yeah, I remember back, it's been several years ago, we tried to do bag trash only, and it was the same. Nobody wanted to do that. But yeah, I think it's something that we need to do. If we can define that to where if it's from a residential, like a citizen's house or something, it's in their pickup and they can throw it in the trailer, then that's good. I don't think we need to try to take commercial vehicles or anything right now.
Well, and one of the calls I had was, and ironically, I thought this was kind of cute. The last slide on your prior presentation
dog
on the MS4 thing is the don't forget to scoop the poop, the dog poop.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that is a business goes around and per your previous slide, it talks about protect the health of your waterways. And so from his perspective, he's doing good by going around, and it's a business model that he picks this stuff up, puts it in a bag, just like when I had twins, I put a lot of diapers in a bag and threw it in the garbage. And so the difference, I have a hard time differentiating between the two. Twins full of diaper bag versus this guy that's actually, per your own slide, is helping
Yes.
protect the waterways. You know, why would we not accept his and we would accept my twins diapers?
Now, I did talk to this gentleman and we did let him come and dump as long as he didn't put it on the floor, and asked him not to let people know that, because he is a commercial, considered commercial
Yeah.
waste, because it's a business,
Yeah,
not to kind of let that out to where people would come back.
you're letting
and-
it out now for everybody.
Yeah, I know, but we were trying to
Don't forget about
restrict
that.
it as much. But because I knew he could handle it, it was secure, and he and his son would come and they would actually physically tote it from their car to the trailers. No problem with it. My issue is, and I explained to him, was because it was a commercial business and we had nothing but, residential.
Right.
I said, so yes, come and do it. And for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be going before the board and we'll make a decision, but please just don't, put this out to public
And-
knowledge, because
And I think that's fine. And there's just a lot of definitions
Right.
of commercial
Right.
and resident. I mean, that depending on which industry you're in, there's different definitions of it. And to me, what I'm thinking about here, when I say commercial, is a commercial hauler, like somebody that will go and pick up a
Dump truck.
subdivision, of trash, or a
Oh, yeah,
roll-off
yeah.
truck or
Roll-off.
something like that. Like that's what my definition of commercial is. And I don't think we should accept that right now until we get something fixed. But if you can not have to dump it on the floor and be able to put it in the trailer, you
Right.
should, and it's not anything that's prohibited from us dumping,
Yeah.
then you should be able to dump it.
Yeah, I think that's,
If you can load it and unload it yourself,
Yeah,
you're good with it.
that would be my compromise. That way we're better
Okay.
defined
yes.
for y'all's and for your staff. That's an easy way
That's
to
gonna
say, it. If you
eliminate
can pick it
don't
up,
bring the
then
dump truck,
Right.
'cause they're not gonna
and maybe eliminate
Right.
concrete if that's a big concern.
Yeah.
Bricks and concrete slabs and.
I'd
yeah.
be fine with that.
Okay,
That makes sense.
that gives us a little time to consider this other stuff.
And just to circle back, if I could, Mr. Chairman, the concept of how much we're getting per ton, I mean, there should be a host agreement, and Dave and Kristen have confirmed that there is one. I'm not sure that 50 cents is appropriate. So if you want us to look into that, the statute was amended in 2019 and set a base surcharge.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we're getting what we're entitled to, so I could take a
Give
look
us
at
some
that if
more
you'd
then.
like.
Please do.
Because
Okay.
I don't know, I met with Denise and Dave earlier this week. I think it was this week, maybe I get my weeks mixed up.
Friday.
But we talked to Vicky, and if I'm not misquoting her, she hadn't received any money from Eagle Point this year. Isn't that what she said?
Well, I talked to Natalie today because Vicky's on
Yeah.
vacation and they have received checks.
They have received
Yeah.
checks. Okay.
And that's why when I was on the phone with her, she kept changing the number. So she wanted me to let you know that they are still not finished with the 2021 books yet. They're still.
Yeah.
They
Working
haven't
on it.
reconciled all that. So that may change. We may
Yeah.
no longer be 8,000.
Okay.
Maybe more or less.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And that is one thing too, that while we're talking about it, is I would like to see us, we're getting that host fee. And right now that's helping supplement our what it cost us to run the transfer station. But I don't want us to depend on that fully to operate on. So if we're getting $300,000 a year from that, I don't think we should be able to save. I'd like to be able to put some of that aside for these repairs, like Denise is talking about, if we can work out something operationally to where we can, I think we need to probably check maybe our prices on what we're charging versus other, locations around. And because I know Eagle Point, I think we're at $46 a ton. Is it
Eagle
40?
Point, we charge the residents, I believe it's 46. We're charged by Eagle Point, I think $24.95. I
Yeah.
think that's right. And then Eagle Point itself, for anybody else that comes in, I think it's charged 64.
Yeah. So,
This
you know,
varies.
if they brought the same thing to Eagle Point as they brought to us, we would charge them 46 a ton, where Eagle Point charging 64 a ton for it. So I think we need to make sure we're on the same
Mhm.
page as other places too. Just to where we're not, I know it's a service and I don't want to, you know, overcharge somebody, but we need to kind of be in the same line, money wise.
Yeah,
Especially
I'm-
on the commercial side.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm fine. That the worst thing I want to happen is that we get so restricted that this stuff winds up on
That's right.
Fawcett Drive or winds up on the
Yes.
side of 400. And then we've got more
Yes.
labor costs to go
Yeah.
pick the stuff up. And our whole goal is to keep our community. Yes, it's a service that's there, but it's also, there's ancillary benefits to having it and to providing it. And I think that's well worth expenses that we have to pay. But to your point, if we're way out of line, then we need to get competitive, but not to a point that. it's
Right, yeah, I don't want it to be
detrimental.
restrictive for somebody
Yeah.
to dump, but it just something that's close, you know.
You know, as an engineer, we like to build and tear down things. So
Mm-hmm.
I would not be opposed to, you know, dynamiting and starting over and having a transfer station there that will take everything.
Oh,
But I just
know.
don't think we have the money right now to do that.
Yeah, and I think that may be a goal that we can work toward, but hopefully this will get us
I think
to,
it's a good compliment.
you know,
Mhm.
to where we need to be, our for now solution to where we could, you know, help people get rid of their stuff and, you know, still kind of operate.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Next up, we have presentation of IFB number 400-22, single bathroom for Rock Creek Park Splash Pad Pavilion. Matt.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll try to be very brief. This is a very simple or smaller part of our projects that we've got going on at Rock Creek. Just a little backstory. As you know, we have the splash pad at Rock Creek Park, and I believe that it is probably one of the highest used splash pads around. And it is a fantastic addition to the park. Of course, the usage that it gets, the foot traffic. But the problem is that we don't have a restroom down there. And so when a mom takes her child, let me rephrase, when a mom takes her children and one needs to use the restroom, as soon as they hit the water, then they have to leave the other one there and walk across the parking lot to a restroom. So we're simply just going to look to put a restroom at the Rock Creek Pavilion, the Splash Pad Pavilion. Okay, so in this first slide, you'll remember this is part of the 1.6 million SPOS funds that was allocated for the Parks and Recreation Department. It was voted upon. And so we did this bid according to policy, and we did have one bid received. Okay, so the scope of the work is pretty simple. It is a simple block building frame with electrical, with plumbing, very minimal site work, very little in the way of land disturbance at all. The construction is of a concrete slab will be there, and it will connect to Etowah Water and Sewer, which is right beside the pavilion, literally 10, 15 foot. So that'll be very minimal in land disturbance right there. I think this drawing here shows the method that we're going to be using to connect this bathroom to the existing pavilion that is already there. Pretty simple. And I believe this one shows the actual layout of the bathroom. Again, very simple. Couple of, well, it's just one sink, one toilet inside of a stall. Very little in the way of heating, no air conditioning, of course, and very simple. Just a changing station for the little ones and that type of stuff. So very minimal. This will be again used not only for the splash pad, but for the extensive amount of walkers that walk the walking trail. This is one more restroom that they have on the eastern side of the park. So very minimal in the scope of the work. Okay, so the negotiated offer, Ms. Hawk did a wonderful job of negotiating this down with the bidder. The original bid that was received was $187,655, $187,000. And she did a great job of getting that number down to $169,883.
That is just, how the hell did we get the prices like this?
I was hoping we wouldn't gonna have that part of the conversation right here. but-
It's just the way, I mean,
Unbelievable.
prices are,
Freaking square block building with a toilet and a sink.
But
your
one bid.
plywood's
bothers
about
me.
$50 a sheet now.
I mean, one bid.
You
I
are
mean,
correct. But that's the number that we're at, 169,883. Our team was in agreement that we should go ahead and try to pursue this if we could. And I believe here on this last slide, staff respectfully recommends that the board to accept the bid submitted and award the contract to Crown Services Contractors not to exceed the amount of $169,883. And this is utilizing $129,000 of SPOS funds and just over $40,000 of the impact fee funds.
Questions?
How long's the splash pad been there?
Oh, it's been a long time. I remember.
It was
going when
before I
opened.
got here,
Oh,
5 years.
5 years.
So we've
Oh.
survived without it for 5 years. If we hold off 12 months and this cost us half, what damage have we done?
I'm
I
assuming you're wanting me to speak on that.
I wonder what,
I don't know. I mean, we're starting to see a pullback in certain things.
it is.
$785 square foot.
That is, I can't go along with,
I know
It's
things-
crazy.
Things are expensive, but that sounds like highway robbery.
that's
I mean,
ridiculous.
Why just one bid? Do you have a clue for that?
Everybody's busy doing bigger projects.
This is-
Actually, I think it's good, but-
Really? They're
How much
not
is Jackie-
interested.
Jackie Town put a porta potty out there.
Yeah.
Okay, never done business with these people. Where are they out of? What,
California, apparently.
what? Do what?
Fly branch.
All ground, one of them partner apparently is one's in Malanga and one is where,
Fly branch.
Larry went.
Wow.
That's why I paid Jackie Town for the porta potty out there for the summer and then rebid it in 12 months.
What's it made out? Is it just a block building? Is that
Yes,
what
ma'am.
Just a block building?
Yes, ma'am.
On three sides, one side's already connected to the.
Is there
Oh,
sewer
my
hookup there?
word.
Yes,
Yeah, there's sewer right there.
Sewer
Right
water
there,
already.
close.
yes, right there close. Yes,
And there's
within
water.
20 foot.
And the
And the
water.
water's on 40 foot.
Yeah, and electrical will be already provided. It's already, we'll be tapping off of the electrical there.
Auburn, put your other hat on, start laying block.
I can do it.
I guess we could all meet down there a couple weekends, just knock it out.
There's a community project right there. Some nonprofit that will build that for us. I guarantee it.
I mean, I understand, because
Where's the
I've
road?
had the same issues. I've had a little porch that I've been putting on my house, and I wound up putting the shingles on it myself because it's only 4 square and I couldn't get nobody to come do it. I mean, they wouldn't nobody even look at it. So, you know, I had to do it myself, but
Do you have a lot of complaints that, oh, I've got to go to the bathroom and I've got to walk over here?
We do actually, and I don't want to call them complaints. It's more just suggestions. And you can see the need. If you have 3 little ones and one has to use the restroom, you got to load all 3 of them up, take them across the parking lot to the restroom at the ball fields, which is a pretty good, ways away. So I can definitely see the need, and I'll defer on speaking on whether or not I think it's needs to be put off, basically. But there is
Well,
definitely a
There was a
need.
porta john down there in that corner.
Nobody likes going.
Cause, well, I know it. I complained, somebody complained to me because it smells so bad. You could smell it all over the place.
Yeah.
So
I get that there's a need for it. I mean, I got 3 little kids. but
I know.
I'm also responsible for taxpayer dollars and I have a super hard time of spending that money for that thing. When it's not an emergency. It's not like the fire station septic system that we had to do on an emergency basis.
do we have any other construction projects coming up at the park close by that, we might could piggyback off of, or is that pretty much all we've got going on?
That's all that we would have going on right there. And
Yeah.
all of my other SPOS 6 projects are well underway. I don't know
Underway.
that you could go back and
Yeah,
put anything on top of anything.
Right.
That'd be way above my head if we were able to.
yeah.
But everything that I've got going on, all of my mini projects are all already past that point, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And none of them are vertical, by the way. New things like outdoor concrete walls and the turf fields. And none
So
of them
there's no
are
light projects.
No.
Anyway.
I agree with you, but there's a playground there too as well, so they're not expecting that playground, they need a bathroom, but
Oh, I agree.
I was shocked when I seen.
It's just one stall, isn't it? There gonna be a line at the one?
urinal and one sink, that's it.
And no air conditioning.
Oh,
But it does have a heater.
Yeah, for sure, freeze
I'd
pipes.
rather have more stalls than air
The way you'll
conditioning. I mean,
freeze
one
the plumbing
stall.
pipe.
No air conditioning.
There must be a good bit of gold incorporated in this somewhere.
Well,
One
I
would think.
It goes back to what Talbot said, though. It goes back to the fact that it's a small job. It's a small job,
Nobody wants to do it.
and there's plenty of work for anybody who's willing to work nowadays on bigger jobs. So for anybody to bid on something other, they're gonna bid a high price. I know Dave and I have talked about this in the past, maybe having like a construction manager that we could kind of sub out some of this stuff to individual local, maybe some local people that we could get a better deal out of, somebody that knows how to lay block. I'm not one of those people, but somebody that does that, has Chris said, maybe has been tied with us to the park for a long time or something other that would give us a better price, but it requires, I know in our bidding process, we have to bid everything out like we do. And this is what you're gonna get. This is the kind of bid you're gonna get in today's world, unfortunately, based on the fact that there's work to be done if you're willing to work. I mean, there's not a line of people, the reason you only got one bid, there's not a line of people who are hungry because they have plenty of work to do. So, I don't know 12 months from now if it'll be $250,000. Don't know.
And you said we never done business with these people.
No, ma'am.
Have you seen any of their work then?
I have not.
I have not seen any of their work. Okay.
In my experience in the past, the people we've not done business with, the business has been totally bad.
Oh, man.
So I'm not saying that would happen with this particular one. We've had a couple of good ones, but a couple like Full House and others, we had huge trouble with, but we were there to work it out.
Any other questions for Matt?
It's just not really a question for Matt, but I wonder if, we're looking at doing the new MS4 person, if we open that position up, I wonder if that's something that we could combine, like you were talking about, a construction manager with a project manager position. I don't know if they would have time to look after small
Looks like to me they got a lot to do.
small
just-
projects.
Mm.
Or something, or if we could do that. Cause I mean, you could build that a lot cheaper. It's just that there's nobody willing to do a
That's
turnkey
it.
project.
That's the, let's throw this price out there to
Yeah.
crazy enough to accept it.
We'll do it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt?
What's the size of the build? You said just 3 sides and it was,
And it will connect to the existing
yeah, and
pavilion.
what's the square
13 by
footage?
13.
Basically.
Yeah,
Basically 13 by 13.
pretty small.
Can I comment on that for 1 second?
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
To
Dave.
your point, Commissioner, is that if we did hire a CM outside, they would have to be licensed through a GC contracting license. So if we had somebody inside, if we hired somebody inside, we would have to have.
Yeah.
that type of
And that's by the
license.
state. Requires that.
Pardon me?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it is. You gotta
So I
have a
just wanna bring
license. They gotta have a license. Then it'd have to have a license with our county as well. So not only by the state, but the county as well. I know we've had this conversation on multiple projects that we have. When I see the bid price on a lot of this stuff, and Dave and I think Tim and I talked about Station 8. I mean, we've got a good, nice building out of that, but it was way overpriced in my personal opinion for what we paid for it. But it came out and what it did based on the process, but maybe that's something we can look at and try to figure out a better way. I mean, I don't know people, I don't know anybody that lays block, but maybe we could try to figure out something other, but
I wouldn't mind if we could, you know, like Chris was talking about, if we could do kind of a community outreach thing and see if there's something, some group that would be willing to do it, or a, you know, a local GC or something that might be willing to sponsor it. Cause I don't think you're putting a whole lot on the line to build a 13 by 13 bathroom with your license. So, you know, if it wouldn't be, you know, I think there might be some other alternatives we could look at.
Yeah, I think we can look at it. I mean, I think bottom line for Matt is he just wants a bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, maybe some of these people that we're gonna put on this construction board would want
Well,
to,
that's what
John
I was
Lee,
looking
for
at.
instance.
Watch out,
Greg
they might not want to be on the board. after
Oh,
we keep loading
oh,
them
I'm
up.
sorry, I'm sorry.
There are some general contractors on there, so
I
they would
know.
have a license.
I know.
So we could take a look. We could, have some conversation about that as well.
Yeah.
And,
Any other questions for Matt?
One other thing too, I don't know if it's something that we could look into for this. I know people don't like porta johns, but you know, they make those like their portable trailers for their bathrooms and stuff. I don't know if we could get one of those cheaper. I know we'd have some challenges with ADA compliance about ramps and stuff getting up into it, but
Super expensive.
are they real expensive too?
I don't even
yeah.
know what you're
Yeah, there's-
talking about.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah,
And they have trailers that have showers.
I mean, they're not as
and everything.
expensive as a
Really?
13 by 13
Yeah.
building these days, but
Yeah.
they're still not cheap.
Yeah.
I had never priced, I've seen them. I've
Yeah.
never,
Well, I mean, I say they're not cheap. They're 25 grand, something like
yeah.
that. That's a temporary solution.
Yeah, that'd be a rental on mine. Any other questions? Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have presentation of board appointments, Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals. John Lee will be a reappointment, term March 2022 through December 2023. Greg Brock replacing Pat Hanson, term March 2022 through December 2024. Roy Cunningham replacing Jay Jones, term March 2022 through December 2024. Chris Mead replacing Michael Morris, term March 2022 through December 2024, and Greg Scott replacing Larry Taffer, term March 22 through December 2023. You saw in your packet some of their background, and so I would recommend those to you in reference to filling these at the construction board. And it appears that Ms. Sharon would like to have that to move forward, so she'd have somebody to actually send that stuff to. So y'all good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good with it.
All right.
Have all these agreed? Are
Yes.
these drafts? They've all agreed to do this. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all volunteered.
Unless you
for
make
it.
them build the bathroom.
I know
They
it.
didn't show up for some meetings, so they got voluntold.
Yeah,
All right. So y'all good with moving that ahead?
Yes.
yes.
County manager report, David.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The key indicator report for the month of February is in your packets there, as well as the list of agreements and contracts. It's also in the packet. Parks and Recreation has postponed the 50th year celebration scheduled for this Saturday with the expected rain and all day and the evening Friday. And with the muddy conditions and everything, they're going to push it back to possibly July. And at that time, looking at having a huge pool party. And so the 50th year
Are the
celebration.
bathrooms there? Will there be
We're
bathrooms?
good.
Well, I
We already replaced that.
50th year celebration has been postponed, so details will be posted county webpage going forward. Laura will post that. We also have a big day coming up on March the 30th, which is Commissioner Dooley's birthday, so I think he's owed us all.
Oh.
All right.
So
Who's gonna start, Sharon?
Sharon.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Emery. Happy birthday to you.
I'd kind of forgot about it. Y'all mentioned it. so-
Oh,
You were hoping to
remind
forget about it.
Yeah, I know.
and that's all I had for my short report tonight.
Questions of the county manager? County attorney report.
I do not have a public report, but we do have a need for an executive session tonight that will be to address potential litigation and also cybersecurity, which is another opportunity under executive session exceptions. We have a need for discussion of that tonight.
Okay. Questions of the county attorney? All right. And with that, we'll be adjourned from our work session. We'll take about a 10-minute break and be back for our voting session. What, you got something else?
No, I was just thinking about a land acquisition thing, but never mind.
Okay. We can add it if you want to, because we're not gonna do it till after the voting anyway.
We can talk about other land too.
Yeah, let's add land acquisition.
All right. We are adjourned. 10 minutes, we'll be back.